Position sizing for a prop firm challenge. Why optimizing weights can be worse than dividing by 1. I let Portfolio Composer optimize the weights of 6 strategies in a portfolio. It used the Markowitz efficient frontier, the standard tool of modern portfolio theory. It earned the most of every variant I tested, and it would still have thrown me out of a prop firm challenge roughly 1 time in 3. It was beaten by a method you can run on a pocket calculator: divide 1 by a single number. In this episode, I'll show you why that happened, how to measure it on your own portfolio, and 4 places where I got it wrong along the way. I started with the question of whether to let Portfolio Composer propose the weights, or set them by hand. That's a badly framed question because sizing has 2 independent axes. The first is scale, the total notional of the portfolio. The second is allocation, how you split that notional between the individual strategies. And this is the trap I fell into personally. If you change both at once, neither result is interpretable. You always have to compare allocation candidates at the same total notional. Otherwise, you're not comparing allocation. You're comparing a mixture of allocation and scale, and you have no idea which effect caused what. The FTMO 2-step challenge has 2 hard limits: a daily limit of -5% and a maximum loss of -10%. The one that decides is whichever has the higher utilization, and this is something you have to recheck after every change to your setup. In this project, the binding limit moved 3 times. First it looked like max loss, then the daily limit, then back to max loss once I applied the prop firm's cost profile, and finally back to the daily limit once it became clear why that max loss had jumped. If I'd derived my ceiling from drawdown and stopped checking, I'd be trading roughly 3 times more than is safe. With fixed position size, meaning the position doesn't grow as the account grows, one thing holds exactly: multiply your lots by a coefficient, and net profit, worst day, and maximum drawdown all multiply by that same coefficient, in dollars and in percent, because the denominator is the fixed starting capital. That means most of the series of tests where you gradually raise position size can be calculated, and you only measure checkpoints. And I'd recommend doing it by writing down each step as a prediction before you run it. For me, it held repeatedly, within tenths of a percent. That's good news, but the value isn't in the precision. The value is that the moment a prediction diverges, you immediately know you've missed something. Without the prediction, you'd never see the discrepancy at all. The only non-linearity is margin. Above a certain size, the simulator starts discarding trades there wasn't free margin for. Now to the first mistake, because it's instructive. I ran the plugin and got a pass with very pretty numbers, and they were completely useless because the record called portfolio in the databank contained a single strategy. I caught it by the trade count. The portfolio has roughly 6 times more trades than the plugin was showing, and when I pulled the trade count strategy by strategy, the number on screen was exactly the count of the strategy sitting on the first row of the list. The merge had included only that one, so one dumb check belongs in the process. The trade count of the portfolio has to equal the sum of the trade counts of the individual strategies. It takes 10 seconds, and it protects you from building an entire analysis on 1/6 of your data. By the way, strategy. QuantX kept caching that record for a while. Only a restart cleared it. When I pulled up the prop firm's contract specification, I found that it quotes the swap on long positions in points per day. My own calibrated broker profile was working with a swap in percent per year. Those are 2 different cost models, and they don't convert with a simple coefficient. I calculated the holding time of the whole portfolio, an average of just under 4 days, a median of 2, but thousands of days of exposure in total. That tells you 2 things. First, the portfolio holds on average about 1 position at a time, not 6, so the worst-case margin scenario is rare. And second, at that exposure, the swap is not a rounding error. For a long-only portfolio on the daily time frame, it's the main cost item because it's paid every single day, regardless of whether the trade is making money. So I built my own broker profile matching the prop firm's conditions and reran the whole thing on it. On the prop firm's profile, my maximum loss jumped above the limit, and the plugin returned a fail. It looked like the portfolio had suddenly become dangerous. Let me be clear about what I'm measuring on. Starting capital equal to the challenge size on each of the 6 strategies, merged with the initial capital of a first strategy option, so the denominator for every percentage is the challenge size. Between the 2 runs, I changed exactly one thing: the swap model. The position sizes stayed identical. It wasn't dangerous. A points-based swap is a fixed amount per day, and it's a snapshot of today's rates and today's index price. Apply it to the start of the history when the index was at a fraction of today's value, and it corresponds to an absurdly high annual rate. That regime never existed. So I tested it. I switched the profile to a percentage swap, and the maximum loss dropped by orders of magnitude, while the worst day didn't move at all. That's the clean signature of what's happening. The worst day is driven by the market, and the market doesn't care about your swap model. The drawdown, on the other hand, accumulates from swap paid day after day. Remember that test because you'll need it for any long-held portfolio at a prop firm. Drawdown falls and the worst day doesn't move. It's cost, not risk. This is, to my mind, the single most valuable number in the whole analysis. I measured the worst day of each strategy separately and added them up. The worst day of the whole portfolio is substantially lower than that sum, a ratio of 0.39. In other words, diversification removes 61% of the nominal risk, because the worst days of the individual strategies mostly land on different dates. That's a concrete measured value for why you hold a portfolio instead of a single strategy. And it's also exactly the thing a bad allocation can destroy, which is precisely what happened next. For a long time I told myself that 6 equal lots was equal risk. It isn't. It's equal notional. When I calculated the efficiency of each strategy, how much profit it brings per unit of the risk it contributes to the binding constraint, the spread between best and worst came out at more than double, 2.05 times to be precise. So equal allocation was not a neutral choice. It was systematically overweighting the least efficient strategy and underweighting the best one. The allocation candidate follows directly from that. Weights inverse to each strategy's worst day, normalized so the total notional stays the same. Every strategy then contributes an equal share to the binding constraint. The exact position sizes and measured figures are on Hero. I put 3 candidates head-to-head at exactly the same total notional, equal allocation as the control group, equal risk, and the weights from Portfolio Composer using Markowitz. Equal risk improved the decision metric by roughly a quarter over equal allocation, and consistently on both samples, including outside the data the strategies were built on. And then Markowitz. It earned the most of all 3, but its worst day was 120% of the limit, and a risk of breaching of 37.5%. That's a 1 in 3 chance the challenge throws you out, against 0.2% for equal risk. 2 orders of magnitude apart. Markowitz did exactly what it's supposed to do. It maximized the ratio of return to variance. Mathematically, it's correctly executed, except it got there by concentrating 60% of the notional into a single strategy. And that destroyed the overlap effect that was cutting the worst day by 61%. That one strategy breaches the daily limit on its own before you add any of the other 5. Here's the general conclusion to take away. Variance and the left tail are not the same thing. A portfolio with lower variance can have a worse day. All it takes is for the strategies to be calm most of the time, but in position together on the day the market drops. On top of that, Composer knows nothing whatsoever about the challenge rules. It doesn't know the daily limit, the maximum loss, or the minimum trading days. And its drawdown is calculated against the equity peak, not against starting capital, so it's systematically more optimistic than the boundary the prop firm measures you by, and that gap widens with position size. One more thing, across 6 sibling strategies sharing an instrument, a direction, and a time frame, the covariance matrix is mostly noise. Composer didn't converge for me even at 1,000 simulations. The weight of one strategy moved across a range of more than 20 percentage points between runs. The final setup is equal risk with a coefficient that keeps headroom to the daily limit. Over the full period, pass, worst day at roughly 2/3 of the daily limit, risk of breaching well under 1%. On the out-of-sample slice, pass, and a risk of breaching of 0, and both phases of the challenge in months, not years. Let me remind you where I started, with a portfolio I was claiming was too slow to even finish the challenge. The portfolio wasn't slow, the sizing was. The exact position sizes, the measured percentages, and the day counts are on Hero. Mathematically, I could have gone considerably higher. I didn't. I left myself 38% of headroom to the daily limit. The reason isn't timidity. The worst day is a point estimate from one single historical day. It is not a distribution. The next shock doesn't have to be the worst in history. It only has to be 1/10 worse than the one you've already seen. And Monte Carlo won't catch that for you because it bootstraps from the same sample. It cannot generate a day that isn't in the data. That's a limit of the method, not a flaw in it, and it's worth saying out loud. One more thing belongs here. Take the worst day from the full period, in-sample included. Optimistic in-sample bias concerns how well the strategy earns, not how far the market fell. That drop is real. And now the things I didn't resolve, because I don't want to bury them. The price data isn't from the prop firm's platform. It's data from a free source downloaded under their broker profile. So the cost model matches the prop firm, the price data doesn't. SQX itself recommends using data straight from the broker's platform for accurate results. The spread is an SQX default, not a measurement. The difference against my calibrated profile is small, but it's uncalibrated. The linear scaling prediction came out slightly off on the out-of-sample repeatedly in both directions. I don't know why. It doesn't affect the decision, but I'm recording it. And the formula SQX uses for percentage swap isn't in the documentation, and the measured result didn't match my conversion from points. That's why I use the percentage profile only as a diagnostic tool, and it doesn't feed into the decision. This is the same standard I demand of other people in these videos. If I didn't apply it to myself, the whole episode would be worthless. The procedure transfers and it doesn't need Composer. Step 1. Same lot size on every strategy. Merge, then use the selector to go through each strategy on its own. Write down its worst day. Step 2. Weights inverse to the worst day. Normalize to the same total notional. Set them, merge, measure the worst day of the portfolio. That's the one extra measurement you need. Step 3. The multiplier is the limit divided by the measured worst day, multiplied by your headroom. Step 4. Verify on the full period and on out-of-sample as a prediction made in advance. Step 5. Check the second limit too, and for long-held positions run that swap test. That's the number of strategies plus 3 plugin runs in total. And the last thing I insist on, always keep a control group. Equal allocation at the same notional, measured. Without it, you don't know whether your reweighting achieved anything at all. I don't want this to come across as me throwing Portfolio Composer away. I'm just not making it the judge, where it makes sense. First, when there's no hard threshold whose single breach knocks you out. Then variance is the right objective function, and Markowitz is a legitimate choice. And note, this isn't about whose money it is. The moment you set yourself a rule on your own account that says, at minus 20% I stop, and you mean it, you have a hard threshold, and the same thing applies to you as to a prop firm. Second, when the portfolio is genuinely diverse across instruments and directions. Then the covariance matrix carries signal, not just noise. Third, and this is the thing that was missing from my process, margin. Merging in the retester doesn't model margin at all. The dialog says so itself. The result is neither tradable nor backtestable. Composer does model it. I verified this. At extremely low leverage, my trade count dropped sharply because part of the trades had no free margin. If you're anywhere near the margin ceiling of your account, that's the only place in SQX where you'll see it. So Portfolio Composer proposes, the plugin decides, never the other way round. On Hero, I'm putting up the full analysis with the numbers, the specific position sizes of all 6 strategies, the measured percentages from the plugin on both samples, and the comparison table of all 3 candidates. There's also a download attached, a step-by-step manual for running this procedure on your own portfolio, and a calculator that works out the allocation and the ceiling for you. Link in the description. If this episode gave you one usable thing, let it be this. Before you start optimizing weights, find out which limit is actually constraining you. Most allocation work is wasted if you're optimizing against the wrong metric.